A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our showcase, Igniting Change, as part of ICCS 2025. My name is Elliot Danker, and I will be your host for this session that showcases inspiring community leaders who strengthen social cohesion through education and arts. Now, our speakers will share their initiatives that bridge cultural divides, foster interfaith understanding, and empower grassroots movements. We'll also feature these 5 organizations across our regions who will share more about their work within their community and, of course, their hopes on a more regional level. Now, of course, you can join in the conversation, submit your questions, which will happen at the end of each presentation. You could do so via Pigeonhole, and we will be flashing that QR code on the screen. We'll leave it there for a while. At any point, do send in your questions via Pigeonhole. Now, our first speaker is from Singapore, is Ms Zulayqha Zulkifli, who is the co-founder of Project Hills Singapore. Now, Project Hills is a community initiative that provides food and other support to low-income families in rental housing. We'll hear more about some of the initiatives that they've conducted, as well as their hopes for the rest of the region. Ms Zulayqha, please.
Hello, mic test. Sorry, I have to do this because as you can see, I'm limited, so. Okay, so as what Elliot has mentioned, I'm Zulayqha. I'm the co-founder for Project Hills. So many might ask, why do I introduce myself as a co-founder? My other co-founder, who's not here, my brother Zul Hakim, who is also my brother, fortunately, established this organization together with me. So Project Hills was founded in Queenstown. For our Singaporean friends, Queenstown is located in your central south area in Singapore. And we started during the height of Singapore's 2020 circuit breaker period. So because many would also ask, why exactly we wanted to do what we do, we sprang into action when we noticed families in the rental estates that we were also living in were financially struggling amid the sudden retrenchments and how they were also coping during the pandemic. So what began with a tight circle of 10 volunteers, because we only started with our families, our friends, delivering essential groceries, quickly blossomed into a diverse 70-strong volunteer group made of working adults and youth across ethnicities. So our target audience has always been families who are often overlooked by larger programs, particularly elderly residents, single parents, and those without resources to help by offering groceries, home-based solutions, and even home repair assistance. So during the COVID, most of us were actually asked to work from home, study at home. But while these look like a typical day routine for us, it imposed a challenge for this group of families because for those who are not familiar, living in a rental flat, some may have your own personal space, some may not. Some will have to actually share spaces with their siblings and family members, making learning and working unconducive for these families. So beyond immediate aid, we partnered with other ground-ups to also help residents launch home businesses and explore alternative career paths. So along the way, we have also learned how to treat each family as individuals, not recipients of aid in every distribution and grounded in listening first and serving second. So we first started with only 17 families because we were mindful on the capacity and resources that we have. And then through our regular interaction, which is happening weekly till today, we serve multiple rental blocks, including Mei Ling Street, Stirling, Bukit Merah, Lingkod Baru, and Kintian Place. So if you're wondering how many families we are serving up to date, we serve up to 3,000 families to date. So as cited in the MVPC 2023 Ground Up Initiative study, our organization is actually recognized as a model of nimble, effective, and community-embedded social change. So at Project Hills, we don't just distribute aid, we build trust across walls, walkways, and sometimes languages. So multiculturalism to us means more than just living side by side. It's about breaking silos and fostering real, meaningful interactions. Whether it's working with a Chinese auntie to pack food, a Malay father to distribute them, and a Tamil-speaking grandmother who remind us to rest. We've learned that harmony starts with seeing people as people first. Sometimes it also happens not just through policies, but through proximity in rental blocks, where strangers become neighbors. We do have families who have stepped up to become volunteers themselves and have chosen to become good neighbors. We have also seen how a shared meal can bridge cultures and how respect is built not through grand speeches, but through small, consistent acts of care. So to us, it's not just about enduring hardship, it's about doing so together. From youth volunteers to elderly residents, our strength lies in the relationships we build and sustain, even when resources are tight and the issues are complex. Whether it's navigating language barrier, housing insecurity, or simply showing up when others don't see these acts of solidarity form the backbone of resilient communities. So ultimately, with Project Hills, it's a living example that you don't need to be big to create impact, to be deeply rooted, radically kind, and always be human. I shall not bore all of y'all with more of what I do, and I shall leave it to your Q&A sessions later on. And I think our other fellow speakers would also have interesting things to share about their respective organization. Yeah, that'll be all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Feel free to send in your questions via the QR code. I do have to say, I really appreciate what you guys do because I've lived the life twice, in fact, in one of those one-room, one-hall rental flats growing up. So I've got two questions. The first one being, what do people in those living situations tend to take for granted? And I don't mean the obvious stuff like, I don't know, food and all of that and hoping for welfare, but if it's a big family in a small rental flat, most often than not, that could cause that family to eventually break apart because some kids just want to run away. What have you seen in those scenarios?
I wouldn't say the families that I've actually interacted with actually took things for granted, especially in terms of the aid that we give or sort. I would say they are more appreciative because we constantly show up to be there for them. So I think what we took for granted, not those who live in the rental flat, what we ourselves took for granted is the daily interactions. We underestimate the conversations we have with our neighbors, right? Who among here today step out of the house, interacted with their neighbors just to ask how have their day been, whether they had their breakfast. So these are conversations that the pandemic taught us very strong lessons on why there is a need for such interactions so that we know who is in need.
Yeah, and I think even with the more fortunate families, they don't even do that with their neighbors.
Exactly. So it's not something that families living in rental flats alone face. It's something that all of us here face as well.
What about, let's say, units with, and again, talking about these rental flat units, and this was a situation I encountered, so a bit of a personal question. My mother didn't want help. Pride, if you want to call it. My father was willing to accept any help. How do you deal with those situations, and is it common?
Yeah, as you rightly pointed out, it's actually more common than you think. And I don't think it's something that only you experience. I mean, I personally have experienced it myself. My father, I grew up with a single father, so my father didn't want help at all. And I thought, hey, why not? There's help, right? So as I interact with our fellow residents, we noted that these help comes a lot from distress issues. Distress issues with organizations, social service agencies, government bodies, and etc. So that's where we come in as Project Hills to provide psychoeducation, to make them understand that, hey, we're here to help and we're here to journey. And if you stumble upon certain processes, we're here to see how we can thief that out so that you too get the assistance that you need.
Is it a challenge, or are there barriers to reaching out to needy families?
I would say challenge is maintaining and linking them up, because it's always a passing of the baton that would sometimes lead to miscom, right?
You're like an insurance agent in a way. We've experienced that. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, because I'm also a social work professional myself, I understood the pain on how information or maybe cases don't get handed over in a holistic manner. So I understood that, and I identified that as one of the challenges that we still face till today, in fact. Miscommunication, misunderstanding about certain processes and all that. And I think as long as we humble down and be able to listen to both sides, naturally we can come to something good.
It's hard to find that place of empathy because communication, you're also communicating the actual core problem or pain that you have to kind of understand. Just a final question and something I hope we can end on a nice positive note. Personally, your most memorable moment during your time with Project Hills?
I think the most memorable moment for me in Project Hills would be when the families outgrew the poverty. They break the cycle.
Right.
And I think taking into consideration these families went through generational poverty. It's not something that I decide to become poor tonight, and then I become poor the next day. Yeah. So their parents, their grandparents could also be going through poverty themselves. So when they get married, they invite us to these big milestones. Their children graduate from school. Yeah. I think those are actually the memorable experience for me.
The first barrier really getting them into a chance at a good education that could change things. And we see some parents who would give anything just to put their kid through that sort of situation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Ms Zulayqha Zulkifli, thank you again. All right, from Singapore, we now move to the Philippines. Up next, our speaker is Ms Arizza Ann Nocum, who's the co-founder, Champions for Peace, president for Chris for Peace Philippines. Chris for Peace promotes peace through education and youth leadership in the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms Arizza.
Thank you so much. Good morning, magandang umaga. Let me just test this. Okay, it works. So, I love being here in Singapore, not just because of ICCS, but obviously because of the food. If you've tasted nasi lemak, chili crab, roti, it's not often we find it in the Philippines. It's amazing, actually, that you get a lot of that good food here. And it's not just the flavors of Singapore, it's also the flavors of Southeast Asia. And here in the region, we have a saying that you've probably heard before, same, but different. You've heard this before, right? Yes? So let's do a little warm-up because I feel like everybody's still a little bit sleepy, maybe. So when I say same, can you say different? Same? And then when I say different, can you say same? Different? Same? Different? Sorry, I work a lot with young people, so this is what we do. But this is such a short but very powerful line that illustrates how much we share beyond the diversity that we all have. So this icebreaker leads me to the topic of my presentation, which is social cohesion from the ground up. My task for today, honestly, is to take you out of this five-star ballroom, out of the shining skyscrapers we see here in Singapore, and bring us to the real world, bring us out there, back to farm villages, back to war zones, ill-equipped schools, marketplaces, homes, those that have been broken up by violence, those that have been not, out there where social cohesion doesn't just have to happen, but needs desperately to happen. And on that note, I'd just like to take a quick pause, 5 seconds, for us to bow our heads and offer prayers, wishes, or even silence for those who are currently suffering amid conflict and warfare. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So I'm also going to talk about Champions for Peace today, which is a project that we do using a very important resource, that of young people. So to start us off, I want to tell you about myself. Who is Arizza? I've been working as a peace advocate for most of my life, and it all started with this, my multi-faith, multicultural upbringing. I'm the daughter of a Muslim mother from an indigenous group and a Catholic father, and they both come from conflict-affected areas in Mindanao, Philippines. It was an interesting time growing up. My parents fell in love with each other, including falling in love with each other's strong sense of faith, and they decided to integrate both religions in our household. Honestly, some people think that this is wrong, but growing up with them and seeing that love made it feel right. However, it was such a contrast to the conflict, the tensions, and even acts of terror that confronted our very hometowns for years or even decades in the Philippines. So we understood that we had to do something about it. In 2008, we started a nonprofit organization called Chris for Peace that promotes peace through education and youth leadership. We started by building peace libraries and providing scholarships to young people in communities affected by conflict, and we've also run advocacy campaigns promoting positive values like empathy and respect. But today, we focus more on empowering young people to become peace builders. Together with the Kofi Annan Foundation, we've trained over 1,000 young peace builders in the Philippines through workshops, particularly focusing on vulnerable communities. These workshops had multiple goals. First, we wanted to transmit knowledge and skills so that young people can more capably lead for peace. Second, we wanted to listen to them, because honestly, we're not listening enough to young people, especially those who often experience the brunt of this poly-crisis, this perfect storm that we've all been talking about the past 3 days. Third, we wanted to give them a space to form their own ideas for peace and to have the chance to make those ideas happen, and as the slang goes, give the world a glow up. So following our training, these young leaders implemented their own projects for peace and development in their communities, maximizing young people's digital savviness, creativity, boldness, and grit. The projects were amazingly diverse. They made storybooks for peace. They mobilized fellow youth after natural disasters. They created spaces for harmony, for reading and learning, even in communities that have been scarred by conflict for such a long time. And we're very happy that by doing this work, the work of Chris, the work of these young people, we've been able to reach an estimated impact of over $5 million. I often say that I don't think I'll ever see this much money unless I go back in time to 2012 and invest in Bitcoin, or unless I shift careers and commit to becoming a crazy rich Asian, if you've seen the movie. But I'm extremely happy to see that this is the level of impact young leaders can achieve. But the Philippines is not alone in the challenges we face. Yes, some things set us apart. Our mangoes are heavenly, by the way. We love to sing karaoke, but I'm really bad at it. And we have amazing beaches, but we do share many things in common across Southeast Asia and even the world. Same? Different? Yeah, just checking. Very good. And what we share includes, sadly, challenges such as the lack of meaningful youth inclusion to bring people together for common action. Think about it. Approximately half of the world's population right now is under 30, and yet when we look at who's calling the shots, they're definitely not under 30. This is what the data says. Only 2.6% of parliamentarians are under 30. 72% of people of all ages believe that politicians don't listen to them. And the average age of a CEO worldwide is around 56. I'm not going to ask who here is under 30, but to my eyes, you all look under 30. So let's give ourselves a big round of applause. Yes, we value wisdom, expertise, and experience, of course. But we need to diversify these power tables around the world. True multiculturalism has to be intergenerational. And now I want to talk about ICCS. Here, I am so grateful that since ICCS started in 2019, it has had the Young Leaders Program, or YLP. Are there any YLP representatives here? Woo! Yes, nice to see you guys. The inclusion of youth voices in this program is a great step forward. But we do see 200 young leaders out of 1,100 participants. So if you do the math, that's about 18%. So I hope that we can see more of them in future conferences. So if any of the organizers are here, I hope to see more of these young people in bigger numbers in future conferences. But I'm also grateful to ICCS for showing us at CRIS a way forward to expand and strengthen our work. I've been part of this community since 2019, since the first edition, and because of that, I've been inspired and emboldened by this great meeting of diversity of different partners and organizations. And I've also become cognizant of the common challenges that young people face everywhere, whether it's conflict, climate change, mental health issues, a literacy crisis. We are now working towards creating a global network of young people building resilience to promote social cohesion inspired by these experiences at ICCS, and we call this program Champions for Peace. So what is Champions for Peace? It's a 3-year initiative of the Kofi Annan Foundation and CRIS for Peace in collaboration with Singapore's very own Temasek Foundation, Nagolendran Philanthropy Alliance, and the Diana Co Fund administered by Asia Community Foundation. Champions for Peace aims to empower youth, not just from the Philippines, but also from Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand to tackle social and environmental challenges and to promote social cohesion. So I just want to give a big shout out to my colleagues here who are in the room. So what we want to do leading to 2027 is to build a training curriculum that is responsive to the needs of young people today. We'll then roll out training activities in the 5 different countries and then national workshops. And from there, we will provide these champions with an opportunity to apply for grants and for them to lead projects from the ground up. And what is that ground? As I mentioned earlier, that ground is the real world out there, beyond Raffles City, beyond Fairmont, beyond Swissôtel, into vulnerable communities, towns hit by natural disasters, places affected by conflict, villages where young people need to be heard and supported. So what have we done so far for Champions for Peace? We've conducted a youth-led research aiming to get raw perspectives from them. And some interesting things we've found out is that, yes, young people are concerned about the challenges they face, but they want to turn that concern into action. But for that action to happen, they need meaningful support, and that means funding, decision-making power, and bigger platforms where young people can get heard. And peace needs to happen not just from the ground up, but from inside. So this was particularly interesting and also a bit heartbreaking from some of the narratives we got. Young people said that in this day and age, they're simultaneously adulting, being confronted by multiple crises, trying to keep their head above water with all the fake news and AI-generated bots and what have you. But social cohesion, they see, must start from a place of personal resilience. In short, much like in a relationship, you can't give what you don't have. You can't have world peace if you don't have inner peace. So to end, I want to invite you to become part of Champions for Peace, and you can learn how, and this is our contact details there. And I hope that you will be part of this community, this network, this movement that we're trying to create. And to close, I'd like to share an image that is very popular in the Philippines, touching on a concept we called bayanihan. Bayanihan, loosely translated, means being heroes together. And for me, this goes beyond cohesion or multiculturalism. It means standing for common goals to drive common action. We often forget, because of our diversity, that we do have many similarities, that we have oneness. We want to fulfill our dreams. We want safety and well-being. We want to maximize our potential. We want respect. We want to be heard. We want a chance to be there for others. And this common humanity is there. We just have to open our eyes to the fact that we do connect and that we do belong. So if I could quote from a great poet of our time, Madam Taylor Swift, she said, "If you could see that I'm the one who understands you, been here all along, so why can't you see you belong with me?" Thank you so much. Maraming salamat.
Thank you very much. I love that last image, in the sort of jungle or forest area, tiny house, everyone carrying. And it's funny because sometimes I imagine myself living in a tiny house, just no one carrying it around me. It's funny that way. Tell us a little bit about working with youth and this whole drive to empower youth. Now, I know you said we're all under 30, but what's the problem with listening to youth? I keep hearing the phrase, "Oh, what does a young person know?" Do we tend to forget that young people, while they may not know what they want, they know what they don't want? They definitely don't want all this conflict. Yeah. What's your experience?
I do think that young people have expertise that we do not recognize enough. So for one, especially in the communities we work in, young experts are experts in understanding the needs and sentiments of their fellow youth and their fellow communities. They're usually very embedded in community-based action or university or school-based action, and they have a lot of knowledge, innate knowledge of what's happening around them. Yeah. Secondly, the capacity to understand and evolve with technology is amazing. Yeah. Like, I can't even keep up anymore, but they're on TikTok, they're on Slack, Slack, they're on Discord. And it's amazing how fast they are evolving with the world. And I think that's something that should inspire all of us. And I think lastly, they have the most to lose. They have the most skin in the game. A lot of the decision makers in the world right now, I'm sorry, but they'll not be here for the next 20, 30 years. But young people, that's going to be the bulk of their life. So because they have that most skin in the game, I think they're very, very empowered and encouraged to act.
Okay. No, I like that. And I'm, like you, a supporter of youth, even though I'm below 30. But culturally, it's a problem that we tend to rely, as we get older, we tend to rely on this thing called experience. And I've actually gone for some of these courses that have taught me, opened my mind, that experience is not a fortune teller, it's just experience. So is that stopping us from listening to youth just because they haven't gone through what we've gone through? It's not a rite of passage, is it?
Well, for one, if the past 30, 50 years have been indication of that experience and where it has led us today. And you see the experience that a lot of world leaders have used and where we are today. I think it shows that it's not perfect. And it's not maybe the best and only resource we should be using. So that's why I really capitalize on that word intergenerational. Because we're not doing it enough. Sadly, in many traditional, political, religious, etc. circles, even business circles, the decision-making balance is still tipped towards those who are older. And I guess that is still important. But I think we enrich ourselves more by having conversations across the border. And I've even had an interesting conversation about it because I don't understand a lot of the issues that now much younger people face, like teens and below teens. So I get a lot of advice from my 14-year-old brother about a lot of things. And I learned that, oh my gosh, like I'm ignorant in terms of what these other young people are facing. So if we could do that, but several scales upward, then that'll be great.
Two-part question, final question, two-part question. The first part being your thoughts in engaging parliamentarians to address the challenges on the grassroots level, bearing in mind youths.
Of course. So we do want to push for legislation that becomes more inclusive towards young people and especially youth engagement. I think in many countries there is not enough budgeting going towards youth programs that are really meaningful. So for instance, I'm sure for the young leaders here, you've been to a lot of youth conferences, workshops, training programs, webinars, but in the end, there's not a lot of great follow through. And I think at the end of those things, what young people really need is funding and continued support. And that's something we've seen from our partners like the Coffee and Foundation and Temasek Foundation. They've been quite brilliant in bringing us towards more continued support. And aside from legislation and budgeting, I think parliamentarians also really need just to sit with young people. I was recently in Norway, and there was a place there where basically, traditionally, the head of the parliament or the prime minister would go here in like a youth retreat area and talk to high school students and ask them, what do you need? And I don't think that is happening enough, or that is happening at all, even in some contexts. So we really need to flip the narrative. And because majority of the population are young people, they need to be represented, and if not, heard more loudly. Okay.
Sorry to rush you through this final question, but it's a personal interest of mine. How important is your work for young women?
Yes. So I didn't really touch on a lot of that in my talk, but again, when we're talking about multiculturalism, it's not complete if we don't have all of the spheres present. So I'm not just talking about men, women, but obviously, of course, the LGBT plus community as well. I'm bringing that here. And I just want to share as well that in many traditional and religious contexts, we are not seeing enough women. And I'll bring back a lesson from one of the religious leaders who actually spoke here at ICCS, who said that we have to have leadership that is more feminine. And I will remember that because I think it's also work that we need to do, not just bringing young women to the fold of peace building and leadership, but also women in general.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Arizza Ann Nocum.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's time to turn our attention to our neighbors, Malaysia. Our next speaker is Ms. Debbie Choa, Project 57 Malaysia Director of Youth Empowerment. She has been a practicing solicitor for almost 20 years. Her work with Project 57 focuses on nation building and empowerment of indigenous Malaysian youths. Ms. Debbie, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody. So Project 57, we are a social enterprise started by entrepreneurs. And it was actually birthed out of a somewhat tumultuous time in Malaysia, of a lot of corruption and divisiveness. And we call ourselves a movement of hope because we aspire to inspire nation-building values such as diversity, acceptance of one another, and unity, especially amongst youths. We share the vision. Oh, hang on. Next one. Yes. We share the vision of our first Prime Minister in that our future depends on how well many different kinds of people can live and work together, which is a vision shared by many of us here at this ICCS. Among the initiatives which Project 57 started is the Unity Ribbon, a symbol of unity amongst Malaysians from multicultural and diverse backgrounds, and a symbol of hope for a better Malaysia. And the Unity Ribbon, it's a symbol of togetherness, and it's really a call to action to people from all walks of life to stand united together, to never give up, and to join our movement of hope. And these Unity Ribbons, they're handmade by indigenous youths, with 100% of the profits going to fund indigenous education. Our goal is 1 million Unity Ribbons. It was a big, hairy, audacious goal, and we now have reached half of that. Since 2015, we've undertaken a variety of initiatives from presentations, dialogues, shorter to longer-term projects, mostly with high school and university students, all with the objective of advocating nation-building values, with a focus particularly on youth leaders to become ambassadors for unity and, in turn, with the hope that they will influence their own communities. Bringing together youths from different backgrounds, using the Unity Ribbon as a focal point and also as a shared symbol, it somehow is able to initiate conversations and also provide that sense of collective identity. And making the Unity Ribbon together in workshops, we get young people from different backgrounds to do that together. It's also provided a space, a much-needed space actually for youths to come together, to get to know one another, to share some of their experiences, and hopefully leading to better understanding and empathy. I recall a workshop in rural Malaysia in the state of Pahang, one time where we brought together students from Chinese school, national school, mostly Malay students, Muslim students, private school from Kuala Lumpur, and also indigenous youths. And when we first started off the workshop, it was like everybody was stunned, right? Like a bit of a cultural shock. But through the course of the workshop, you can see the youth, the resilience in youth, that when they are given this opportunity, they can indeed break the ice despite the language barriers. And somehow they get to know one another a bit better. And by the end of the workshop, which was only half a day, you could see that they had already made friends. Project 57 has also collaborated through partnerships with the private and public sector. We really need both the public and private sector to get together to run campaigns such as like the Unity Ride, where our co-founders led a team of cyclists covering every state in Malaysia, collecting stories from the makcik, which is the aunties by the roadside stalls, to even ex-soldiers who had fought for the nation in the past. And we stopped at various pit stops at universities and high schools where unity-themed forums and workshops were conducted. Now, as part of our nation-building initiatives, we have also sought to provide education opportunities and scholarships to indigenous youths with a view to empowering them so that they can be resilient in maintaining their heritage and live well within their preferred context. We started with older youths, and this here is Farah from the indigenous community who, despite receiving very minimal formal schooling, she gained her degree through our Project 57 Education Fund. And as part of nation-building efforts, we really hope to achieve higher success rates by educating preschool children now and bringing them or building them a stronger foundation. And here is Jorita, one of our Project 57 Education Fund recipients who graduated with a degree, but she's actually chosen to return to her village to run a preschool supported by Project 57. So we are often asked at Project 57 whether we can ignite change and make a difference, and whether there is hope. And I believe that the answer is yes. As we can all hear from this ICCS conference, racism and racial conflict is a global threat to humanity, and the news every day is so negative, right? It reflects a global attack on interfaith harmony, mutual respect, and trust. Yet, we all live in a world of immense cultural diversity, and so we have no choice, but social cohesion is crucial for a shared future, because that's the way in which we can foster cooperation and trust and a more peaceful society. So, where do we start? Well, firstly, in my humble opinion, it begins with each one of us as individuals. Reconciliation of communities from different religious and racial backgrounds, it needs to begin with, in my humble opinion, forgiveness. And forgiveness for the prejudices that we hold against each other, not just us expecting others to ask us for forgiveness, but actually us taking that first step to ask for forgiveness. And most of us are members of a spiritual community. Each of us holds our own different beliefs, but the religions of the world do hold something in common, and that is the commandment to show compassion and respect for one another. I was really inspired when His Majesty King Abdullah of Jordan gave his keynote speech at the first ICCS conference in 2019. He said that in Islam, the compassionate is among the beautiful names of God, and that in His compassion and mercy, God requires that we in turn show compassion and mercy and live in peace. And in Christianity, which is my belief, we are also commanded to love one another. And this same commandment and desire and value is through all religions. So let us focus on what we have in common, irrespective of our backgrounds. Let us highlight our shared values. Let us look beyond ourselves to others and correct our lenses and remove the prejudices, even the fears in which we look at others. And secondly, every one of us has the power of influence over our families, our colleagues, and our communities. We can start with small acts of kindness to people of other backgrounds, and hopefully they will in turn influence the communities that they live in. As expounded by Malaysia's Deputy King in the Sultan Nazrin Shah in his keynote on the second day of this conference, social cohesion is built from the ground up and starts small with everyday actions, and that the foundation of social cohesion is to be a good neighbor. I would like to stop here and share with you a video on the indigenous youths who came together to help us make the unity ribbon.
Saya berasa teruja kerana ini kali pertama saya membuat ribbon bersama kawan baru saya di sini.
Bila saya buat Unity Ribbon bersama kawan-kawan, Saya rasa seronok dan gembira.
Kami belajar di tempat ini, ada yang datang dari kaum Cina, ya, India, dari suku orang asli, bahkan dari kalangan orang Sabah sendiri. Dan semasa kami membuat ribbon itu, kami dapat mengeratkan silaturahim di antara kami.
Semasa saya di kampung, saya tidak tahu apa itu marka kami rakyat Malaysia. Setelah saya join Unity Ribbon, saya rasa saya bangga sebab saya rakyat Malaysia walaupun saya orang asli suku kaum Semelai.
They learn the value of unity when they sit down and make the ribbon together. So it is very meaningful.
Ia ada makna yang sangat mendalam bagi negara kita.
Untuk memahami betapa pentingnya unity itu di tanah air kita yang tercinta ini.
Ini memberikan saya satu semangat untuk lebih memahami antara satu dengan yang lain.
We are not only doing it, we are actually sharing something.
Simbol Unity Ribbon ini adalah semangat cinta dan sayangkan negara kita Malaysia.
We can feel the real unity. It's actually there.
Saya merasa bangga.
Saya menggalakkan kepada semua rakyat Malaysia
Untuk menyertai pergerakan Unity Ribbon.
supaya kita dapat mengeratkan perpaduan di antara kita semua.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Debbie. Thanks very much for that presentation. I really do appreciate all the work that you're doing. My first question, and it may sound simple, but what is youth empowerment? And I ask that because when we were young, even though we're all below 30, our needs are different from youth today. And in my follow-up question, there are even more things that the youth today need. What is youth empowerment?
Okay, so youth empowerment, I mean, there are so many facets to it, right?
Yeah.
But how we start is backwards. So we know that youths, I mean, like, there's a whole bunch of them here, wonderful today. And they're obviously change agents,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So if we start with the belief that they can be change agents and that they can make a difference, so then if we work backwards, what are the things that how do we want to empower them, right?
Right.
So I feel it still goes back to values,
Okay.
right? So the values that, I mean, like Arizza, right?
Yes.
Some of the values that have been embraced by her come from her own family,
Right.
right?
Right.
Values can also be taught in schools,
Okay.
right? So youth can also be empowered. So for example, I went to a local school, but it was a mission school, which I understand also Zul there went to a Catholic school, right? And so we were taught values.
Yes.
And from there, it's like being empowered to feel and believe that you can, lah.
Yeah. But it's tricky, right? So I've recently completed a course on empathy and what it means to be empathetic or to use empathy, and I don't dare to use that word now because, wow, it requires so much. You take away, you basically give that person a free pass. Now I will come to you and understand your state instead of expect, you to just tell it to me. How do we include all of that? And my question is, youths with special needs. I mean, you see that more and more today. How do we include all of that in line with your comment on values for social harmony?
So I really believe that it does start from the ground up, and it does start from our schools and our education system, right? And firstly, the awareness and really the policies. So like in Malaysia, for example, right? When we were young, we mixed with many, many different races.
Sure.
We didn't even notice that they were from a different race.
Very kampong spirit, if
Yes.
you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, even though we were in the urban
Yeah.
setting, right? And so from there, it's like a subliminal immersion and something that you just receive.
Yeah.
And from there, I think understanding other people from different backgrounds naturally gives you that empathy towards them. Yeah.
Okay.
And coming to your special needs, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, it depends on the spaces where we get to integrate with each other, right? If there are opportunities. So, example, our Unity ribbon.
Yeah. Okay.
We've done that with special needs kids.
Okay.
Yeah, we went on it's like a best buddies kind of camp thing. Yeah,
okay.
so we got, neurodiverse is the correct word to use, right? So neurodiverse, special
Okay.
needs, and not neurodiverse, right? Our normal kids,
Yeah.
all got together and made the Unity ribbon.
But that's education, right? Because the regular kids or normal kids get to see a different perspective.
Yes.
If I were to put it that way.
But through that, they also develop the understanding about
Yeah.
neurodiverse kids and
Right.
therefore the empathy. So I think it's
Okay.
really through education, awareness, opportunities to integrate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that, and I think if we have that, then we become culturally richer in that sense. Just a quick last question, and I apologize. This might be a little bit difficult, but how hard is it to sort of follow progress of the youth that you guys have engaged, to follow their progress, their journey in that sense, to monitor progress, if I'm using the right word? Is that difficult?
Okay, when it comes to, of course, the campaigns and the fun events that we did, it may be a little bit more difficult there, although when we partnered with some universities, they did have a social matrix. So they did do a survey with their students who joined our workshops to see what they got out of it. But in terms of the indigenous youths, which is the other pillar, right, our other nation building pillar, we have journeyed with them. So the two examples that I showed, example, Jorita. So actually, we knew her from the time she was at a youth development center, and then she came to Project 57 to work. And then I said, hey, don't you want to go back to school? And then from there, university, and then she graduated, but she chose not to remain in the urban area, but to go back to her village.
Okay.
So for those kind of stories or relationships, we have tried to continue and therefore measure their progress in that way, but perhaps not in the formal thing that you may be looking at, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that can be quite challenging.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's
Thank
Debbie
you.
from Project 57. All right, let's head over to Indonesia now. We will invite our guest, Ms Amsa Nadzifah, who is the Executive Director of Yayasan Literasi Desa Tembo, Indonesia. Now, her work centers on rethinking education through culturally rooted participatory approaches, and she leads initiatives that preserve local knowledge and promote digital and climate literacy among rural and marginalized communities. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms Amsa, please.
Hello, everyone. First of all, it's an honor to be here, and thanks for having me. Unlike Debbie who closed the presentation by video, I would like to share to you about how we use literacy and arts in Indonesia. And in the beginning, I would like to start by showing you a short video why we choose this community in our project.
I am Amsa Nadzifah, and now I lead Yayasan Literasi Desa Tembo. In our village, people know each other. We live closely, work together, and share a lot of same values. But because we are quite a close-knit and similar community, sometimes we don't get exposed to different ways of thinking. That's why we started this foundation to create a shared space for learning, for opening up new perspective, while still staying rooted in who we are. We use books and open conversation to introduce big ideas like the environment issues, diversity, and fairness. We also use arts like angklung and traditional dance to build confidence and sense of harmony between children. And it's not just for kids. We learn with the mothers too, because we believe smart moms raise smart kids. We believe change can start small, right here in the village, with books, with conversation, and with each other, we grow together.
Yeah. Now listening my own voice in this hall room, I must say that it's a little weird. But let's keep going anyway. As you saw in the video, the community we serve is quite homogeneous. In contrast with the Singapore, where the single family perhaps consists of people who speak 2 or 3 languages differently, and also 3 or 4 ethnic backgrounds. In this village, in this community, we live in the same language, with the same religion, and in the similar way of thinking. And unlike in Singapore, well, you can go outside, going to the park, and also talking directly, conversation with others, with diverse people. In this village, often lack of the public space. I mean public, referring to the place that there is no gate, there is no requiring fee. There is a playground in my village, but there is a gate and you have to pay. And where does this matter? Why we should think about this one? Let me tell you a little story. I grew up in this village. When I was about to travel to Maluku, Maluku is near Papua, and my village in Yogyakarta, my aunt gave me a serious warning. Be careful, people from Maluku are rough and loud. I asked, have you ever been there? She said that no, but I heard from someone who heard from someone. So classic gossip chain, actually. Thankfully, I chose to go anyway. And yes, it's true that they speak loudly, but because they live in the hills, they need to speak loudly to call their neighbors across the valley. Otherwise, they doesn't heard about that one. So it reminded me that assumption look like a locked doors. If you'll never know what inside if you don't knock the doors. And this experience inspired me and my cousin Nurhuda Ismail to start Yayasan Literasi Desa Tumbuh, a space where people can come together and also from different backgrounds. And we believe that change can start from listening, sitting together, and respecting to other perspective. And at Yayasan Literasi Desa Tumbuh, we believe that social cohesion is not like instant noodle. You can't just pour a hot water and expect unity in 3 minutes. It takes time, efforts, empathy, and also funding. And so we work through 5 key principles. In the center, we have social cohesion because we want to build trust with the community. And the second one, we want to strengthen individual and community who involved in our foundation to improve their skill and knowledge and also the competence. And the third, we want to build their social capital because we believe that the community is an empty glass. They have their strengths, perspective, knowledge, network, and we want this program sustain not only for, so even though there is no us, the community can continue by themselves. And also, we want to support their economic development. Why? Let's be real. They still, their financial income is unstable. They prefer to go find money to provide their family instead of thinking about the community meeting. So we promote local products, even sometimes invite them to share about the story about the product itself. And the last but not least, and the important one is narrative media. why we think it's important, because we want to share this story to all of you. And we hope that all of you want to start this kind of project. You don't need to start from the scratch, because you can learn from what it works and what it doesn't work from our community. And you can adjust based on your situation. And this kind of fancy principle, how does it like in our daily life? Every weekend, we have programs that consist of literacy, arts, and dialogue. And perhaps you ask question, where we start the literacy program? Because the nearest library in our village is perhaps 15 or 20 minutes away, and it has only limited books, and the quality of books is not as good as pop-up book or sensory book. So, and if you earn less than $10 Singapore, what you expect? So you have to choose whether you want to provide a meal to your family or you want to buy a book to your kid. So we offer a free access book in Bahasa Indonesia, in our local language, even in English, because books are windows to the world, and we believe that every child deserves a view, even their house doesn't have a glass window. Don't ask about the kids, how do they love about the pop-up book and the sensory book, the illustration book that we have. Even some parents amazed, how can the book pop up like that? And one of them also said that if this program exists earlier, we can read a sensory book that's very expensive in Indonesia to my kids in their younger out. But we don't stop at reading. During this time in the literacy program, we also invite people to come together, talk directly to the children from diverse background, from the state government and also researcher and people with disabilities. And we talk a lot about things, not only environment, climate change, but also talking about digital literacy and also disaster risk reduction. And we also use arts like angklung and traditional dance to boost this kid confidence. Because why? This kid too shy. They want to ask questions. They want to answer questions. So we wanted their performance and they built this confidence. And after a few performances, they already want to raise their hand, and also some of them protest when they disagree with something. That's a progress, right? So lastly, we also conduct a dialogue event with the mothers. We talk everything, talking about the parenting, financial literacy. Sometimes the conversations are deep, but sometimes the conversation is hilarious. For example, one of the researchers from higher education come to our place, and she wanted to share to these mothers, talking about financial literacy. And she said that it's very important to mothers to have saving, for example, in a bank. And then one mother whispered to other mothers, like, how could we save the money because we don't have any money? So as a moderator at the time, I found that I respond that actually you all already practicing it in your daily activities, because we live in the village. Some of them have a small garden around their house. Don't envy about that one. Many of them plant bananas and they process the fruit, make a good food, and then they sell it in the market, and they buy a mini gold. So it's saving for themselves. And some of them also plant wooden trees that can be harvested 15, 25 years as a form of saving for their retirement. So this is how we try to acknowledge their knowledge and their practice in their daily activities, while also bridging the gap between the higher education researcher to connect with the local context. And to close, I'll say this, that it's easy to think that social cohesion something big and abstract, but it's proven in our community that social cohesion is start with small things. And if you are in Yogyakarta, please join to visit to our foundation, because if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, go together, and I need you to go together with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amsa. I really, really enjoyed that story about going into the other village where they speak too loudly, because I experienced that. My father would tell me, your mother's very rude to your grandfather. No, she's always shouting at him. 20 years later, I find out she's shouting because he's deaf in 1 year. True story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm a big city boy that watches too much TV, and you talk about village and start to think, yeah, but the village chief will say something, everyone must listen. Is that a challenge? I mean, are there deep-seated attitudes or mindsets that pose a challenge?
Actually, yeah, because some people think that being a silent is part of the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. So especially in Java, like we have like this people will think that it's part of culture, but because I studied decolonial education,
Okay.
I think that it's part of political issue also. It's
Okay.
so it's not per se part of the culture, but so we found that a lot of families in this village also like you have to be obey with your families, especially parents. But the truth is, some of them is also because the political issue in Indonesia. So yeah.
Is it difficult to, especially with education? I know you have a lot of dialogues as well, and that's wonderful. But how open are they, or does it take a while?
Yeah, that's take a while actually, and we have to use their shoes instead of push them to use our shoes.
Right.
I mean, like for example, when we talk about digital literacy with the kids, I start the question by saying that, who's your influencer that you follow?
Okay.
Yeah, because from that I can learn how about their activities in digital, because these kids, although they are living in the village, even 4 years old already have a social media like TikTok account.
Wow.
And without parents, yeah.
The parents then wouldn't, because like for anyone living in the city, if you're a parent, you'll be able to sort of control or educate your kid in what's right and what's wrong on social. We try anyway. Is it harder in the village because the parents maybe don't know? Maybe they believe everything they see online?
Perhaps they don't know, but they don't have time because they need to get money.
Right. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Priorities. Okay. I know your work centers a lot around education in cultural roots as well, and we saw that with the display on some of the arts that you do. What are some of the benefits that you see with that, keeping in touch with your cultural roots?
Actually, it's like part of building their identity, their confidence as being a villager is not like a I mean, like being a villager is totally fine. You can,
of course.
Yeah. But for these kids, they think that being a city people is better than being a villager.
Yeah, more glamorous, the lights and all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So we want to introduce them about the global by giving them English book and etc. And also my foreigner friends also come and visit us. But at the same time, we wanted them to connect with the local because who want to be farmer right now? There is no young generation who want to be farmers.
I want to go to New Zealand and just don't disturb me. I live on a farm. But that's life, right? I mean, we see this sort of cyclical changes, and it's true. If you've been in a village, you definitely want to try something bigger. Just a final question, and I'm just going to modify this question a little bit. So the question really is about plans to slowly engage the whole family. We often look at how the mothers are very involved with the children. From your point of view, or from your experience, is there an effort to try and get the father involved, a parental unit, as opposed to everyone has their role?
Yeah, the father's role is really important in during our time. I mean, like in the parenting talk, we also invite fathers and mothers. However, the fathers, perhaps only 2 or 3 people will come to join this community meeting. So all of the fathers, please come. But for mothers, they are more quiet. I mean, like they wanna participate more than the fathers.
Yeah, I mean, just to quote a little bit of your presentation, you talked about how perspective is very important as well. And really, perspective is maturity, if you think about it. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Amsa. Okay. Our final segment, we will feature 3 speakers. Please bear with me as I give them their introduction. The first speaker is Mr. Matius, who is the Executive Director of Leimena Institute. Now, he's been leading the development of cross-cultural religious literacy program in Indonesia, and he's also trained thousands of teachers across the nation to build competencies in promoting peaceful coexistence and collaboration in a multi-faith and multicultural society. Joining him later will be Jonathan Jalimun, who is the Deputy Director of Tritunggal Christian School, as well as Leimena Institute's CCRL program alumni. Now, he's also actively engaged with the Association of Christian Schools International, where he serves as both a trainer and assessor. And finally, we will hear from Ms. Ichuk Salibiyati, who's the Principal Muhammadiyah Senior High School, as well as Leimena Institute's CCRL program alumni. Now, she also currently holds the position of Chair of Law and Human Rights Council at the regional leadership of the ASEA in Magelang Regency. Lots to share with us. And starting us off, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matius.
Thank you, Elliot. Listening to the other speakers, actually those are the motivations of why we are doing what we are doing at Leimena Institute. So thank you very much for the sharing from the previous session. So let me start by expressing my utmost gratitude and appreciation to the organizers, RSIS and MCCY, for inviting me, my colleagues from Leimena Institute who are here with us to make sure that I'm saying the right things, and 2 of the real heroes in our programs, the teachers, Jonathan and Ichuk. So the cross-cultural religious literacy program, or in short CCRL, is based on a very simple proposition, almost intuitive, that for a multi-faith, multi-ethnic, multicultural society to become cohesive and to function smoothly, the people need to have certain competencies. Because we cannot assume that simply because we are born or migrate into a diverse society, then we will automatically have the necessary competencies to live together harmoniously and productively. We need to cultivate them. In CCRL, we focus on 3 competencies. First, personal competency, which means that if I'm a religious person, then I need to understand my own religion or belief well. And that's very important, because how we view the others, if we are religious, our religious interpretation really influence how we view the others. Second, comparative competency, which means that I also need to understand other religions, but from the perspective of their followers. So for example, if I'm a Christian, I want to understand Islam, I should talk to and learn from a Muslim. And third, very importantly, collaborative competency, which means that I need to be able to collaborate with people of different religions and beliefs while maintaining and respecting our differences. And that's why it's different from traditional interfaith dialogue. This is very important because collaboration generates trust. And trust is the main ingredient in social cohesion. Therefore, the primary aim of CCRL, even though the name is religious literacy, is not to produce religious experts, but to foster social trust, and in so doing, strengthen social cohesion. So we developed this framework into a set of programs to train madrasah and school teachers from kindergarten to year 12. We launched in October 2021, and the response was very positive. So within less than 4 years, we've trained more than 10,000 teachers, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, and Confucianists. And it's important to note that we've accomplished this through our partnership with more than 30 organizations. I know that some of our partners are actually in this conference. Though madrasah and school teachers remain the core participants of this program, it has attracted other groups as well, because we believe that the framework can have broader applications and can be adapted for different contexts. So for example, we are working with the National Mosque of Istiqlal in Jakarta. The program actually part of their curriculum for the graduate program for the young ulamas. And then working with the Ministry of Law, we are now training the civil servants, legal analysts, legal drafters. We are going to work with them as well to integrate the program into their civil service college. And also, we just hosted a group from the Ho Chi Minh National Academy of Politics in Hanoi because they also want to learn about the program on how to train the government officials. So therefore, when I was invited to ICCS, I was like, of course, because we really need, first of all, we need this conference badly in a world that is becoming more divided and polarized. But secondly, I also believe that social cohesion is and should be a collective project, a collaboration. So therefore, we will continuously explore ways to improve our collaboration with MCCY, RSIS, and others, because it is vital to have this work on social cohesion. Now, as a way of transitioning to our wonderful teachers who are going to share after me, so I want to show this video clip of collaboration initiative by Jonathan's Christian school and a madrasa and an Islamic school. So after this video, you will hear from the man himself, Jonathan. So let's watch the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm honored to share my school experience with the Leimena Institute and their impactful CCRL program. Now, back in 2023, shortly after the pandemic, my school had the privilege of joining a groundbreaking initiative program organized by the Leimena Institute, a workshop on cross-cultural religious literacy, or CCRL. Now, teachers from various schools representing different religious traditions come together both virtually and in person to learn these three essential competencies, which has been explained by Matius previously. And this kind of workshop are truly unique in Indonesia, in my country, and also in my city. It is incredibly rare for educators to get together, educators of such diverse religious backgrounds, to engage in open, respectful dialogue within an educational framework. And I would say the Leimena Institute made this bold step, and the impact has been remarkable. Now, in my school, we serve primarily a Christian community. So CCRL gave us something invaluable, a direct insight into other faith traditions through interaction with their followers. It challenged assumptions, dismantled stereotypes, and opened minds. More than that, it empowered us as teachers to incorporate these principles into a day-to-day classroom teaching, embedding respect, understanding, and cooperation across the curriculum. And inspired by this experience, as you have seen in the video previously, we organized something that we have never done before in our school's history. My school, by the way, is established 36 years ago, so yeah, quite long. a friendly visit to the Al-Manar Islamic boarding school in Salatiga. This was the first time we intentionally reached out to a non-Christian community for a cultural and educational exchange. Until then, actually, our outreach had always been within Christian circles, schools, orphanages, and some community centers. So this visit, sparked by CCRL, for me personally was more than symbolic. It was a real-life example of a peaceful coexistence and mutual learning. It broke barriers not only for our school, but also for our local community in my city, Semarang. Perhaps more importantly, our students felt the impact. For the first time, they were able to move beyond theoretical discussions about pluralism and actually engage with peers with different faiths. They talked, they played, they laughed, and learned together. It gave them the tools, and more importantly, the confidence to live and lead in a diverse society. So as a conclusion, cross-cultural religious literacy, as we have experienced it, is not just a workshop or a curriculum. It is a powerful catalyst for social harmony. It fosters empathy and collaboration, and it builds the foundation for a peaceful, cohesive future, not only in Indonesia, in my country, but anywhere diverse community seek to live together in mutual respects. After this, my friend Bu Icuk will share her experience in her school. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I'm sorry, I'm nervous here. Here, I'd like to share my experience in implementing CCRL in my classroom. One sentence from CCRL workshop has stayed with me. Interact with those who are different so you can be a tolerant person. When I heard about this statement, I feel so confused, pessimistic, and also wonder how my students who live and learn in a Muslim environment can build a sense of tolerance without direct interaction with people from different religions. However, I come to see this as a challenge, not only for me actually, also for educators who works in similar setting. When I began implementing CCRL in my classroom, I noticed that my students have no problem with the idea of respecting other people from different religions. They said that they never had experienced a conflict with people from different religions. Of course, because they are Muslim, attend Muslim school, and live in Muslim environment. In my classroom, when we discussed about expression of opinion, I presented a real-life issue for my student. The issue was about a rejection by some Muslim residents in Bogor, Bogor, West Java, about the establishment of a church there. I asked my student to share their view about this issue. And their responses were very candid. Several students really agreed with this rejection. They have argument that it can disturb the existing religious harmony there. And that there were two students, just two students, I'm so sorry, strongly disagreed with this rejection. They argued that every citizen has a right to worship and has the right to have a place to worship. As Muslim, who has mosques to pray there. These responses reveal two different perspectives. One learning toward what we call exclusivity, and the other toward what we call, I'm so sorry, I will take my note. The other about openness and mutual respect. And this contrast highlight the essential role of CCRL in shaping my students' attitude. So I took this opportunity to share CCRL competencies, as mentioned by Mr. Matius, and to share my own experience in when I joined CCRL program by Leimena. CCRL has a big impact to my students. Give them understanding about the importance of building tolerance, the desire to have friendship, even collaborate with people from different religions. And to strengthen the implementation of this tolerance, we have designed some programs through our students' organization. Hopefully, this effort will contribute meaningfully to promote peace and mutual understanding. Thank you.
So yeah, let's give another big round of applause to our two wonderful teachers. Can we show the slide with the QR code? Because we don't have time to show the video from Bu Icho on how she implemented this in her classroom. But if you scan this QR, it'll take you to a playlist of our video of several teachers doing their implementation in the classroom. We hope to continuously to add more video like this in our YouTube channel. So thank you very much once again for your attention.
Thank you very much. Jonathan and myself will be coming back on stage. If I could invite you all to pick up a mic, and we'll go to the middle of the stage.
Yep. So this is like a choir, eh?
Well, I forgot to bring my drums. You can send in your questions as well. We've got some coming in. But guys, I really appreciate that conversation. And throughout the conversation, I've been thinking of one which I'd like to target the philosophy teacher first, if you don't mind. The topic broadly being cohesion or social cohesion. And in my mind, I feel that the building blocks or the most important fundamental is trust with religion or different races. Yet we live in a world which incentivizes heavily performance, achievement. What is your opinion of this, and how hard is it to find that balance? Which is more important?
Okay, thank you. Now, I would like to begin with these questions. Where do we learn values? Families, of course, the first. But secondly, I believe it is from education.
Okay.
It is from the school. Yeah. Which is why I think this program is really important, because we targeted the teachers first. Why? Because if you have kids, your kids will spend hours in the school, right? Maybe 6, 8, yeah. Or some countries maybe 10 hours, right?
Yeah,
or more.
Yeah.
Not to mention extracurricular and so on, tutoring and so on. And teachers, they not only deliver information, not only deliver knowledge, but they share values. And so when we think about how to help students or kids to be a better person in a multicultural society, it depends on what values that they learn in the early age.
Yeah.
And so teachers played an important role.
Foundation, right?
Right, to lay the foundations.
And then who lays the foundation of the teacher?
Right.
As well, very important. Ichuk, if you don't mind, I really love that piece on tolerance, because I learned tolerance from an uncle, and part of that is a Buddhism or something the Dalai Lama said. But just to follow up a little bit, tolerance and rights, having a personal right. Personally, I feel they go hand in hand. And if you balance that right, you can get a good level of cohesion How much is that of a challenge for you? Balancing tolerance and your rights.
Okay, my students are humanists. They are the same religions.
Yep.
And when I presented about the CCRL, they are confused. What is it? How we should build tolerance? We have nothing to do about that. Because they are not
all the same, right?
Yes,
In a
they
way,
are the
yeah.
same, and
Yeah.
they are not interacting with people from different religions.
Okay.
So there, my opportunity to introduce them that we live in a world that maybe later you can face a community with different people.
Okay.
So I asked them to think that not for today, but for the next real life, that they will meet with the other people from different religions. And it's interesting for them. One question for them, Mom, may we visit church?
Yeah.
I'm confused. Oh, I myself have never come to a church.
Yeah, okay.
So it is a chance for me. Okay, I will make a program to them to know from the basic thing.
Okay.
Just knowing about church, it's very simple, but they never think about that.
And as you grow older, I mean, maybe when at our age, we start to see certain similarities or very core similarities between religions, and that actually makes us even more tolerant in that sense. I think it helps as well. And just a quick one for the teachers before I come to you, Matius. The classroom setting makes a huge difference. I mean, I was very fortunate. I went to a Catholic school, but I have a lot of Muslim friends, Indian friends, Buddhist friends as well, because of the way we sat in class. It was a chalkboard, the tables were so much smaller, unlike maybe in a big city like Singapore now, where everyone's carrying their own laptop or whatever. Does that help in the schools that you all are in? The way the classroom is set up, the way the students are seated next to each other? Could that make a difference?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because we are the same, so I haven't experienced that.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
so sorry.
Okay.
Later we will make it to my students
Okay.
to meet the other students from different religion.
Okay. Okay. Matius,
I'm happy to listening to them. Actually, you can keep asking them.
No.
questions.
Yeah, I have been saving. I've been saving the question for you.
But we have made a visiting friendship with Tarakanita. It's
Okay.
You can see our bonding, our students bonding
All right.
from the video. Yes.
I mean, we've been talking, and obviously the focus of this conversation was about sort of building the values with teachers, and then they take it back to the students. This is something that you guys do. First of all, how often are workshops done? And the question really is about a follow-up in the sense that you get the students to then cultivate meaningful friendship, and you have a life cycle where the philosophy keeps continuing. What are your thoughts there?
So, okay, in terms of the programs, we have actually a set of programs. So, what we call as the introductory program is actually we are running it about like 20 class per. It's a 1-week program that we run like 20 times a year. So, sometimes it's almost like every other week.
Okay.
And then we have several follow-up, more advanced courses online, but also face-to-face. In the workshop, we actually, Jonathan and Ichuk are now also facilitators in those workshops where we train the teachers on how to incorporate, build lesson plans.
Okay.
We're not introducing new curriculum, we're not introducing new courses. So for example, Bu Ichuk is a teacher of English course, so she will develop the lesson plan for the English course, but based on the CCRL principles. So these teachers can actually teach about tolerance using whatever courses that they are teaching, including math, and we actually have more than 50% of the teachers are actually from the non-religious subjects.
Okay.
And in the workshop, we encourage the teachers to voluntarily send us video of how they actually use the lesson plans and then teach in a classroom. And we are surprised with the rate of the return of the video. It's like 70%, but actually Julina, my colleague here, is actually managing that program. Now we are receiving like 90% of the participants send us the video back to us. So yeah, I think we are very encouraged with the response from the teacher.
Of course, the bigger idea would then be, and of course giving a bit of autonomy to the teachers to then get the students will have to come on board as teachers one day and then attend the program in order for that to be a full life cycle. Would I be correct to assume that?
That's why actually this year we began commissioning independent research by two different top university on the faculty of psychology to do an impact assessment as well. So we hope that we can continuously improve how we assess the measurement and how the impact of that. Yeah.
Amazing program. Thank you so much for sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause to our speakers, Ichuk, Jonathan, and Matius.